welcome back to Ride Rescue. Well, in the last episode of this new project, I just introduced you to the old car and give you some of its history. In this episode, I'll introduce you to the underneath side of the car, just show you what kind of condition it's in. It's pretty dirty. It's got some surface rust, but it's not anywhere near as bad as I thought it would be. So in this episode, I want to just really look at all the top mechanism. The cylinders, the top's not going up and down. It's frozen up. You can't even put it down. So there's some issues there. The top is shot, so I need to tear all the material off and then evaluate just what all I need to get ordered. And then we'll go from there. It's probably all I'll get done in this video is just getting all the top off.
Underneath the car, you can start to see some remnants of black paint. I believe that's the way it was when I had it as a show car. But maybe it was. After all, it was a long time ago. You can also see one time it was blue. That was, I think, the third paint job. And you can see on this quarter panel that rough edge. That happened when the car was almost brand new. According to the previous owner before me, the lady that owned it originally, the car was damaged in this rear quarter panel, and at the same time, supposedly she was having some major engine troubles. So they put a new motor in it, and they did body work, and she traded it in. But you can see, for some reason, man, they did a horrible hack job on that drop panel on the inside of that corner. I'm surprised that when I was showing this car in concourse condition, no judge ever picked that up. The underneath side of the car was perfect and spotless and clean, so they just looked underneath the car and that was good enough for them. But you can see it has air shocks on it. The air shocks are no longer any good. The differential, kind of like a silicone around the casing, but it's still leaking. You can see the exhaust. This was the exhaust I put on many years ago, I'm pretty sure. And you can see it's all rusty, so that's one of the things he wants to replace. This quarter panel, you can see a little bit of a rust hole on the drop panel. And when I had the car, I had this quarter panel replaced at a shop. And you can see the inside of this panel. It looks like there's a big chunk of it missing. Yeah, there is. There's a big area there missing. When it comes to the frame rails, though, it's got some surface rust, but nothing major. The frame rails are solid. See a lot of grease on this inner fender well, and now that I think about it, that would be from the convertible top. He said that the convertible top motor runs, but the top won't go up and down. It's probably blown a hose or a seal. That would be the fluid from the convertible top leaking down. In this image, you can see there's a dent right there. Looks like maybe it had a jack. Somebody jacked it in the wrong spot, or maybe it bounced off of a rock. But the floor's solid. You can see pretty heavy oil leak from the transmission, but the rockers are solid. The body mounts are starting to rot, but the floor is solid. You can see the transmission just dumped on my floor right after I parked it in my garage. And you can see it dripping now. I'm assuming that's the pan gasket. There is a lot of oil all over the side of the engine. Somebody put some neoprene bushings in the sway bar. You can see the shock rubber bushing. That's gone. It's coming out. So I'm sure it's going to need some new shocks. There's some surface rust on the coil springs. A lot of oil wetness underneath the engine. Is probably the front oil seal on the engine. When I sold the car, it had a front spoiler on it, and you can see a piece of the front spoiler where it looks like it got knocked off on a curb, and this bracket that somebody has bent up underneath, this bracket goes down to the corner of the front spoiler air dams. So that's kind of crazy that it's just been pushed up underneath and bent the front fender. He wants to go disc brakes, so we'll replace these drums with disc brake conversion. The disc brakes that would have come on the 69 Camaro would be for a 15-inch wheel, and he wants to keep these 14-inch wheels. There is a conversion for a 14-inch wheel. It's not very close to the original at all. If it were me, I would replace them with the factory original style aftermarket piece. They're very close to the original look, and then replace these 14-inch wheels with a 15-inch wheel. And there's the original 14-inch rally wheel. When I pulled it into the garage, it dumped a big huge puddle of transmission fluid, so I put a drip pan underneath it. Check this out. It's only been sitting here for a few days. That's a lot of fluid. This obviously has a pretty big leak. So where I'd like to start on this car is to just get all the interior out. Tear out the dash, tear out the console. I'm going to have to get the back seat out. The top is ready to go down, and if you can hear it, the top motor works, but nothing happens. And it's got just enough force on it. I can't put it down manually, but it will go eventually. I can hear fluid squirting. So there's definitely a leak somewhere. You can get the back windows down. You have to work them, especially this one on the driver's side. So I'll have to remove the door panels on both sides in order to get into those. And if I remember right, there's a metal panel that's also on the side of that. That metal panel will have to be removed so I can get into those window areas. You can see the rubber that is stuck is just bonded over the years to the top of the windshield. You can see this piece, it's petrified for that rubber seal. And then the ends of these are broken off. They're deteriorated and come apart, so they're not locking into place on both sides. But the visors are in great shape. You can see the underside of the convertible top. Pretty beat up. But yeah, all of these seals I'll be replacing because I have to take them off in order to remove the top. And they will just completely fall apart. They're so brittle. But overall, it looks like the frame is in good shape. I don't see any bad bushings or anything. Definitely can be cleaned up. That's just crumbling apart in my hands.
this seal that goes across the front of the bow, it's just stapled on, and then it has a spray-on adhesive. So we'll have to take the staples out, and then we should be able to pull that back. And there'll be more staples all along underneath that lip. They're pretty rusty staples. There's a tack strip that goes along the front of this. Lots of staples. So to get the staples out, I just use a screwdriver and just get underneath each staple and just start popping them out. It's hard to imagine that I put these staples in 30 years ago. Pretty crazy. Wow, that's still sticky. The adhesive that I used so many years ago is still sticky. That's awesome. Underneath here, you should be able to see there's a tack strip in here. There's a little bit of surface rust, but it looks like that tack strip is in pretty good shape. But overall, this is in really good shape. I mean, the car's been sitting in his garage all these years. He hasn't had it out in the weather. And being a convertible, when he did get it out, obviously, he put the top down, so it wasn't getting wet except when he washed it. So it only makes sense that it would be in this good a condition. Typically, when a top is this old and has been on this long, all these staples start to rust out and just don't even hold anymore. I'll get all this off and we'll put the top back up and check out the top side of this. It feels really good. It doesn't feel rusty. It's all very solid. Now you can see the top side of the bow. It's in great shape, but the pads protect it, and it looks like, yeah, the material, the tack strips under the pads is in bad shape too. And these pads, they're $65 to replace them. You could recover it. This one is really bleached out on the back side from sun rot. It's $65. It's cheaper to just buy new than it is to redo those. To hold this top down along the edge, it has a cable. The cable runs on a little spring and a screw. So there's a screw on this end, and then there's another screw about in this area. So we'll get those screws out, and then I need to take all this off, and that just folds back. Take that screw out, pull it all forward. You can see there's a row of staples inside of there. Pop out all those staples. Underneath this piece, there's more staples, and then there's the window, and that window is also stapled, and then there's another one on this side that's also stapled. So hopefully that bow strip, tack strip, is in good shape, because that one's a bear to replace. Now that I have the top back, you'll see how fragile that fabric has become. It tears very easily. But you can see the back window has failed and it's starting to split. Now that I've got that cut back, this is where I need to make those critical dimensions. So I'll measure from this top edge of the bow to the trim so that I can make sure to get this bow perfect. Because once I take these off, like I say, it's just going to flop around. That's what I was talking about, folding it back and exposing the inside of it. Well, that's exposed. There's more staples underneath. Now that that's loose, should be able to see now where the screws are. The screws have pretty much just worn through. There's one there. That one's missing. This one is worn through, and that one is worn through. The foam is all completely worn through as well, and you can see the burlap canvas type material that's underneath that as well, where that gives it a lot of strength in the pulling strength on the top to keep that back window tight, as well as it gives you some cushion between these pinch points, and then the canvas keeps it from rubbing and eroding away. And before I can finish taking off this top pad, I need to take this piece out. It's screwed in from underneath. I think there's 3 or 4 screws across the underneath side of this metal strip. I'll take that off, and then I can finish taking off these pads. And then the fun part comes along, where I need to climb in that well and take off all the bolts along underneath this trim. There's bolts that bolt it all into the body. So like I say, I need to do a little bit of work here. But good news is there's no rust. I was really worried. I've seen this area just completely rusted out. I did a 63 Le Mans many years ago. This area needed a lot of work. At least with the Camaro, you can get this panel new, remanufacture, but this is going to be easy to restore. With the top out of the way, let's get this back seat out of the way as well. There weighs a bear. I've got this up. I do want to check out the foam. These are notorious for the foam going bad and turning to powder. It feels pretty good. Much better than I expected. Get the right tool. Just pop right off. And there's a little horseshoe connector. You want to make sure you don't lose. So most likely this cylinder is leaking. It's either leaking from a hose or it's leaking from the top seal. Now there's not much of an access panel to get to these windows to fix them, but there is a little panel. Top of this cylinder is clean, and the hose that bolts onto it is also clean. That bottom one's a little grimy, so it's probably leaking a little bit, but not that bad. So this cylinder is going to have to be replaced. And every car that I've had that has a power top, when it comes to the GM cars that is, I've had quite a few GM convertibles. If you're going to replace one cylinder, you might as well replace both of them, because it's just a matter of time when the other one blows out too. Looks like I'll be ordering a set. Better make a phone call to the owner. I gotta spend more of his money. This back bow, at this point, it's almost easiest to just do it by feel. But when I'm putting it back on, you literally have to crawl in. hoping to save the back well liner, but the corners of it are ripped. So I get to spend more of his money. This plastic rain gutter, I was worried about it, hoping it wouldn't be all broken. But it is. It's broken everywhere. I get to spend more of his money. There's several washers in here and some spring washers, so you'll want to be careful to catch all of them. Slide these all together, put them in a bag. Interesting. Not sure how I am going to get that out. I really don't want to take these bolts loose. I can take these bolts loose and move so that I can get that out, but that changes all the geometry of the top. And I've had to take these apart before, and they are a nightmare to get back and get everything adjusted. If I take these out, I might as well just take the whole thing apart, completely restore it, and then put it all back in again, because these are so difficult to get realigned. You might as well just start from the front and take everything all apart and take it all out. Got my fingers crossed I don't have to do that. I just don't see any other way. There's just no way I can get onto that. It's just tight against the body. The inside one, no big deal, but man, that's a nightmare. I'm going to call it good on this for now, for another day. I think I've done enough. I'm really not looking forward to having to tear all this apart, but I don't think I really have a choice. So luckily, the top isn't anywhere near as bad as I thought it would be. You just never know when you start tearing these things apart, how much rust is involved and what breaks as you start taking it apart. It was disappointing to see that the cylinders are leaking, but I kind of suspect it anyway since it's not working. Now that I know I'm going to just have to take everything apart in order to get those lift cylinders out to replace them, I might as well just completely take the whole roof system apart, inspect all the bushings, clean it all up, paint it, just really make it nice again while I put it all back together. So thank you for tuning into this episode of Ride Rescue. I've noticed more and more of you are subscribing to my channel. I noticed that a few people have been sharing, so I really appreciate it. Give me a like, leave me a comment, anything like that really helps to build my channel. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you again next time. Bye for now.